And here I am again with, 12 books and lots of notes. But one of the first things that we need to do is we're going to do saying hello to everybody. We skipped over that somehow or other. So just look around you and wave and nod and blow kisses. And let's do it for the people on Zoom as well. We're glad you're with us. That we don't want to leave them out just because they haven't been able to get here. So anyway, it's wonderful to be here. I appreciate all of you. And look, we even have a special little guy today. Sweet. So that's wonderful. The word for today is brave. And I thought it was really appropriate that we, after this particular week, are told to be brave. It's been a kind of a rough week for some of us in particular, but it's also been a really challenging week for our country and other countries around the world. And it was really wonderful to have it be World Day of Prayer on Thursday, and that so many of us were able to come and spend an hour or so in the church in silence and prayer and meditation. And just remember that our purpose here is peace. So I love it because we're brave. And from the, wrong book, sorry. I loved it because this book, Understanding Your Soul, that we've been reading in the book group on Tuesdays, it's the channeled wisdom of Jesus. And this chapter just really resonated with me this week. How do you move forward into your new world? How do you move forward into your new world when it looks so dire and so disastrous and feeling so far from being brave? Just feeling kind of lost and resentful and angry and upset because the divisiveness seems to be growing even more. Well, the channeled wisdom of Jesus, she begins by saying the channels through her. We have spoken about the fact that your world is undergoing a transformation. We have told you that you have been called to be in this world at this time to assist in that transformation. Your world, this world, was created to be a place where souls could incarnate and through their incarnation expand and grow. It was to be a place where energies were to evolve. Entities were to work together to create a beautiful world. Your world was a whole new energy vibration that had not been encountered in the continuum. But instead, your world became a place, your world became a place that had the potential to offer souls unlimited ways to expand. This was what it was meant to be. However, as dense physical bodies and limited conscious minds came into being, conscious connection to the energetic continuum was lost. Connection to unconditional love was lost. Entities began to focus only on the physical. The immense challenges of living in that physical body became all-consuming. The mission to be beings of love was too difficult in the face of worldly hardships. Boy, did that speak to me. Especially, it seems like just too difficult to love. My ego mind wants to blame other people and et cetera, et cetera. Your path, though, is to walk a path of love. Listen to the guidance of your soul. Do not let others take this power from you. You need to be active for what you believe in. Support others in love. Realize you may discover what is best for you, yet never know what is best for anyone else. Again, that really spoke to me. You may look around and see that there are many individuals who are seeking to hold on to power, who are acting out of fear of an unknown future, who are only looking out for what benefits them. This leads to acts of anger, hatred, and violence. It may appear that these will take over your world. They are loud, they are powerful, but they cannot win. You have bravely chosen to incarnate at just this time when the darkness is becoming so apparent. You have bravely chosen to be one of those who rally against this darkness. It is not easy to stay on the path of love. It is easier to fear that if things change, you will lose what you love. It is easy to fear that power will be taken from you. It is easy to fear that those who look different, believe differently, act differently, are going to take over. Fear and clinging to the past are easy. Judging others is easy. It is looking for the goodness in others, seeking to understand others, accepting others, giving to others selflessly, trusting that prosperity is possible for everyone, and realizing that our responsibility is to care for all. Acknowledging that our only reason for living is to love. That is hard, but that's what we are called to do. I was turning to one of my favorite sources for inspiration and guidance, Facebook. Read a great article by a woman who talked about exactly that, the hatred and the fear and the division that's present in the world. And she, like so many of us, has a very good friend who is the totally opposite side of what she believed in. And they got to talking about the assassination this week of Charlie Kirk. And of course, her friend was extremely upset and was blaming the other side, that they're all violent, they're all evil, they're all no good. And the woman who was writing this article said, well, what about the two people that were assassinated this summer that were the Democrats? And the woman she was talking to said, I never heard about that. When did that happen? And she went on to pull up her feed and show her what had happened and what the comments were from the right side about the people that were killed that were on the left side. And the woman said, why did I never hear any of that? I didn't know that had happened at all. And they realized that because of their own preferences, they were being the algorithms of Facebook, the algorithms of all of our feeds, were giving them each only the side they wanted to read. And that they really, truly had not, either one of them. Well, the first woman heard about Charlie Kirk, of course, it was like she couldn't miss it. But The rest of the story, her friend had not heard anything about. And so the woman writing this little blog on Facebook said, it really opened her eyes to how important it is for us to listen to each other, to not judge each other, because we really don't know how much of the story they've heard or allowed themselves to hear. We have no idea where their mind has been telling them and what they really know about what's happening in the world. It is so important that we listen with an open heart. So I don't know how many of you were here. 3 weeks ago, I gave a talk on the power of will. And I was using, one of our 12 power books, the one that I really like by Linda Martella Whitsett, and I talked about the 3 different kinds of will. And I was just really happy to have given this talk. And then next week, my friend Nancy Leifer speaks again and uses the exact same book and the exact same, the same 3 places. And I thought, this is so funny, because in all the 35 or 40 years or whatever I've been working with this church, and we've been doing the powers of the month, and we've been on the speakers committee, we're always so worried that somebody's going to duplicate a talk. And that in my mind, I have never heard any talk be duplicated in any way, shape, or form. It was so interesting that Nancy and I used the same text, but nobody said a word to either of us that, Linda just talked about that last week, or so you guys aren't listening, I'm sorry. So anyway, I was determined to do some different research this week. So I went to a book about Charles Fillmore, because I knew this is one that nobody's going to duplicate. The Spiritual Journey of Charles Fillmore. And it talks about how Charles evolved through his 93 years of life. And got so engrossed in founding and expanding unity and the power of prayer and the power that we have, the Christ light within each one of us. The power that we have is unlimited. So this was a pretty interesting book. Gave me a totally different picture of Charles than I'd paid attention to before. And one of the things it says is that Charles never really paid too much attention to the 12 powers. Contrary to what a lot of unity churches think, the most important thing Charles thought was the basic teachings of unity. And the 12 powers was kind of an afterthought. It was worked on and compiled in coordination with his second wife, Cora. And she compiled a lot of his talks and his written articles. And so it was through her work and her urging that the 12 powers were really enumerated. And this fellow that wrote this book, Neil Volley, says that Charles didn't even really have much to say at all about the power of order. That order was the lecture that he gives in the 12 Powers of Man about order is, let's see what he says. He provided little information about the power of order. He called it spiritual law and order. And it was a rambling treatise that didn't provide a coherent treatment of the topic of order. So Thank you, Charles, for skipping over order. However, Cora, his second wife, was extremely orderly, extremely finicky about dress, the way people presented themselves, what they ate, etc., etc. And she wrote a wonderful addition to the 12 Powers, which has been printed now to get together. The first thing she says, the affirmation is, Jesus Christ is now raising me to his consciousness of divine order, and I realize that the law of God is fulfilled in me. She goes on to talk about how important order is in our lives. She makes it a reference to our life as a play. She says, there's a lot of order that has to go into putting on a play. You have to have the order of the acts, and you have to have the order of the scenery. You have to have the order of the music if there's music. You have to have the order of the actors knowing when they come in and when they leave and when they talk. And God forbid if somebody steps in and out of order, throws everything off. So she felt that our lives are really in divine order, that we are filled with order in the way our lives unfold and the way things show up in our lives and what we have agreed to do or maybe not do, so that we may indeed be beacons of light for everyone else. So her part of the book is Christ enthroned in man. Cora was really interesting. Charles's first wife, Myrtle, they were married a long time. Myrtle was 9 years older than Charles. And she worked a huge amount with silent unity and prayer. She didn't do much writing, no public speaking, but she was huge in forming silent unity. She worked until the day before she died at silent unity, answering prayer letters, having meetings with the prayer partners, sending out prayers. The last letter she wrote was, I think it was October 5th, in answer to prayer, and she died on October 6th. This was 1931. 2 years later, on December 31st, 1933, Charles married his second wife, Cora. Cora was 30 years younger than Charles. Cora had worked as a secretary for both Charles and his wife Myrtle. Cora was really involved in the unity movement, wrote a lot of articles, did a lot of talks, was really instrumental in changing Charles's life. But Cora was a strict vegetarian. She also worshiped Charles. She never called him Charles. It was always Mr. Fillmore. There was some question as to whether they ever actually slept together. Nobody seems to know. They were married, but that was. I think it maybe was because Charles recognized he needed somebody to take care of him, and she was more than willing to do whatever it would take to ensure that Charles would continue to teach and speak. And so she literally took charge of his life. She concocted an alfalfa drink that they would drink every day. And one time when they were out traveling, they traveled from Unity Village to California. Charles jokingly told the man driving the car to pull over because there was a field of alfalfa. He said, "Let's let Cora out to graze for a bit." Charles was also a really big fan of Coca-Cola and ice cream. And so every time they'd stop, take a break while they were on driving, he would take the other wife and they would go find a soda fountain so they could have ice cream and Coca-Cola, which Cora was just totally aghast at. But she helped Charles so much. She managed his life. She took care of him all the way through. And toward the end, his last illness, he was ill for several months apparently, she would sit beside him, hold his head in her lap, stroke his hair, and read to him. And he would tell her, "That's really amazing. That is so profound." And she would say, "Yes, you wrote that." But at the very end, his last words, the most important thing he said that I have to tell you and everybody else, the very most important thing is, "Christ in you, your hope of glory." It's a Bible quote. "Christ in you, your hope of glory." So Neil Volley says that he really felt that's what Charles was teaching us. It wasn't the 12 powers as much as it was unity basic understanding, unity basic beliefs, that we are the light of the world, that the Christ light shines in all of us, as all of us, and that is our path and journey on this planet at this time, is to see that light in everyone, but most of all to remember it's in us as well. So we're brave. We're here to shine our light. And it's in order that we do so. I also went back to this book, Adventures in Resilience, with the 12 powers. And Sharon Connors wrote this book, published a few years ago, not anywhere near as long ago as the 12 powers in Van, but I don't know, 10 years ago maybe she published this book. Cora Fillmore also wrote, "The divine law of order working in the subconsciousness unearths buried talents, reveals hidden powers, and paves the way for their expression. The divine law of order coordinates the mind powers so that new inspirations may come forth and find unhindered recognition. In the conscious mind, the divine law of order emphasizes the overcoming power of man, thereby abolishing fear and despair." So Sharon goes on to write, as a preteen, I developed warts on the ball of my right foot. I probably wouldn't have noticed them except that it really hurt when I walked. Once discovered and relayed to my mom, regular trips to the podiatrist ensued to have them burnt off. Through the years, they were torched off, dug out, excavated, and medicated. The torture never did the trick, however. Sooner or later, the warts returned. I never got a clear answer as to what was causing them, nor was I ever given hope that I would be cured of them once they were fried into nothingness. And this went on all through high school and into adulthood. The miracle occurred while I was studying for the ministry. It happened in the Life of Prayer class taught by Reverend Marvin Anderson. He told us that the project for the semester would be of our choosing, but that it must be a personal healing project using any two of the 12 powers. I picked something where results or no results would be unmistakable. The warts, which like clockwork had returned. For the experiment, I set out to create a systematic practice that included daily visualization of the colors and the qualities of the two powers I chose, order and understanding. I practiced seeing the warts shrink while bathed in the colors. Divine order vibrates as emerald green, and divine understanding is gold. The foot is said to represent understanding. Divine order is a sorting out kind of energy that focuses right outcomes, right action, right thinking, right emotions. It writes whatever needs writing. My prayer practice included daily visualization of the colors and their divine expression vibrantly active in my foot and in my beliefs, known and unknown. I would visualize the ball of my foot where the warts kept returning, filled with the golden light of divine understanding and the emerald green power of divine order. My practice also included time each morning and evening, sitting quietly, visualizing the light of those powers like laser beams flooding my foot and dissolving the warts. I would see the ball of my foot free and smooth. I repeated affirmations. I release all misunderstandings about myself, others, and my life. Divine order is healing my foot. I became willing to change my beliefs, to see with new eyes. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, divine order apparently was making essential adjustments in my body as well as my consciousness. I never checked the results during those 12 weeks. By the end of the semester, the warts had disappeared as if by magic and have never returned. So, some of us have been part of Unity for 40 plus years. We've worked on this idea of divine order and healing and visualization and affirmations. And some of us have come to a place in our lives where our bodies appear to be betraying us. Changing. Charles Fillmore believed he was going to regenerate his body, that he was going to have the physical body of a young man when he really became enlightened. And he firmly believed that. He so firmly believed that some of his followers at Unity Village refused to even let the word of his death go out for several days, because they did not want to upset the followers of Unity with the idea that no, physical bodies are meant to be laid aside eventually. But what was important to remember was the divine order of your divine spirit that continues no matter what. And so I invite you to join me and several of us who are dealing with health challenges, to just relax a bit and be willing to pick 2 powers, if you want, out of the 12 powers, or 1 power plus the divine order of healing, the beautiful emerald green of healing. And just breathe into that. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. Understanding is the gold light. If you want to use understanding, which is always one of the first questions that we ask, why is this happening to me? Let's visualize the golden light of understanding as a ball. And this ball can sit wherever it is in your body that you would like to place it. And we just see this gold light enveloping and embracing and radiating throughout, so that indeed we may be given the golden light of understanding. And at the same time, we call on the brilliant green light, the healing light of order. We allow this green light to radiate throughout our body and out into our energy field that reaches beyond the body. And we feel ourselves just so filled with the realization that divine order is indeed at play in my life. That I am a radiant being of health and healing when I focus on what it is that I am here to do. Knowing that no matter what this physical body may be undergoing or may look like, or even when the physical body is perhaps almost helpless, it still is a radiant being of light that blesses all others. Just visualize yourself just surrounded, maybe like a forest, in the green light and the gold light of the sunlight peeking through. And as you sit in this light, this beautiful light, we see it gradually change and become the white light of the truth. All the colors join together and become the white light of the Christ power. We see this power of peace and love and joy radiating from each one of us here, joining the greater collective consciousness that is the truth of this world. We bless this world with peace and understanding and healing, because this is the truth of who we are. As we go about our day, we know that we carry this light with us wherever we go, because it is the truth of who we are. We light up every room that we walk into, and we see all others as the radiating light of God that they are. And we say thank you. Thank you. It is so. Amen and amen. So we come back into this room. Stretch a little bit, move a little bit. And remember, indeed, we are the light of the world. So let us pray together our prayer for protection. I think it's on the wall, right? Together, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. We are one.